Betrayal doesn't just hurt. It changes you. And not in a small way. Not in a way you can simply shake off or think your way out of. It changes how your body reacts to closeness. It changes how quickly you trust. It changes how deeply you allow yourself to feel. Maybe you've noticed it. Maybe you're not as open as you used to be. Maybe you analyze more. Maybe you hesitate before sharing something vulnerable. Maybe you tell yourself you're just being careful now. But deep down, does it feel like caution? Or does it feel like fear? Because when betrayal happens, your nervous system doesn't file it away as a memory. It files it as a threat. Your body remembers the moment your safety cracked. The shift in their voice. The lie you didn't expect. The message you found. The silence that followed. And even if your mind says, that was then, your body whispers, don't let that happen again. Have you felt that? That tightening in your chest when someone gets too close? That quiet instinct to pull back before you're fully seen? That subtle voice that says, stay guarded. You're not dramatic. You're not broken. And you're definitely not weak. Your brain learned something. The limbic system, the part of you wired for survival, recorded that pain as danger. Cortisol surged. Your heart raced. Your sense of safety shifted. And from that moment forward, part of you decided, never again. But here's the question no one really asks. How do you heal? Without becoming closed. How do you protect your heart? Without hardening it. How do you move forward? Without shrinking your capacity to love? Because shutting down feels powerful. But it's also lonely. And staying open feels brave. But it can also feel terrifying. So if you've been caught between those two extremes, between wanting connection and wanting protection, stay with me. This space is for women who want emotional strength without losing their softness. And if you're ready to heal without hardening, take a moment to subscribe. And by the end of this video, you'll understand how betrayal rewired you, why your reactions make sense, and how to heal without turning your heart into a locked room. Take a slow breath with me. You're not here to become harder. You're here to become wiser. And that's a very different thing. There's something about betrayal that feels different from other kinds of pain. It's not just loss. It's not just disappointment. It's not just heartbreak. It's disorientation. Because betrayal doesn't only break trust in someone else. It shakes trust in yourself. Have you noticed that part? The part where you replay conversations and think, how did I not see it? Were the signs there? Was I naive? Was I choosing not to know? And suddenly, it's not just about what they did. It's about what it means about you. That's why betrayal cuts so deep. It destabilizes your internal map. Before the betrayal, your nervous system believed something was safe. After it, that same system questions everything. And the brain hates uncertainty. When something painful happens, especially something that violates trust, your mind searches for meaning. It tries to create a story that restores control. Sometimes that story sounds like, I should have known better. I can't trust my instincts. I'm too much. I'm not enough. This is what always happens to me. But those aren't facts. They're survival interpretations. When your limbic system is activated, when your body perceives threat, your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for calm reasoning and perspective, doesn't operate at full capacity. You're not thinking from your wisest self. You're reacting from protection. And protection isn't gentle. Protection is decisive. Protection is absolute. Protection says, never again. So you may notice new patterns forming. You might withdraw faster. You might test people without realizing it. You might look for flaws early on. You might feel anxious when things are going well, almost waiting for the drop. Have you felt that? That strange discomfort when something feels calm. That quiet suspicion when someone treats you well. That impulse to pull away before you get attached. That's not cynicism. That's your nervous system trying to prevent a repeat injury. Because betrayal isn't processed only as emotional pain. It's processed as threat. Your stress response activates. Cortisol rises. Your body braces. And even long after the event is over, your system may still react to similar cues as if danger is present. The brain is incredibly intelligent, but it's also incredibly protective. And sometimes it protects by narrowing. It narrows your openness. It narrows your vulnerability. It narrows your willingness to risk. The problem is, it also narrows your joy. Let me ask you something gently. Since the betrayal, have you felt smaller? Not weaker. Smaller. Less expressive. Less trusting. less spontaneous, more measured, more guarded. Betrayal doesn't just wound your heart. It reshapes your identity if you're not careful. And here's the quiet shift that often happens without us noticing. You stop being someone who loves freely and start being someone who manages risk. You stop being someone who connects deeply and start being someone who evaluates constantly. Now, discernment is healthy. Boundaries are healthy. But hypervigilance is exhausting. There's a difference between wisdom and fear. Wisdom says, I've learned. Fear says, I must never feel that again. And if we don't slow down and examine what's happening internally, fear can start to masquerade as strength. So let me ask you something directly. Are you protecting your heart, or are you hiding it? Because those two things feel similar in the beginning. But over time, they create very different lives. In the next part, we're going to talk about the first true step of healing. Not moving on, not forgiving quickly, not pretending you're fine, but naming what actually broke inside you, and why that simple act begins to restore power. Take another slow breath. You're not behind. You're in process, and that matters. Healing doesn't start when you move on. It starts when you stop minimizing what happened. Because betrayal creates something subtle and powerful inside us. A shame story. Not just pain. A story. It might sound like, I feel stupid. I ignored red flags. I must have needed them more than they needed me. I should be stronger than this. And shame is dangerous because it hides. It tells you to stay quiet, to be composed, to prove you're unaffected. But what you don't name doesn't disappear. It goes underground. And when pain stays underground, it starts shaping behavior. You may snap at people who didn't hurt you. You may numb yourself with distractions. You may overfunction. You may shut down emotionally and call it maturity. But unprocessed pain doesn't make you wiser. It makes you guarded. There's something powerful that happens when you name what you're actually feeling. Not in a dramatic way. Not to perform it, but to acknowledge it. Neuroscience shows that when we label an emotion, when we say, I feel abandoned, or I feel humiliated, activity shifts from the emotional centers of the brain toward areas responsible for regulation and meaning-making. It doesn't erase the feeling, but it makes it more manageable. So let me ask you something gently. If you stripped away the surface anger, what's underneath? Is it grief? Is it rejection? Is it the feeling of being replaced? Is it the fear that you weren't enough? Is it the shock that your reality wasn't what you thought it was? Sometimes betrayal isn't just about what was done. It's about what was shattered. Your idea of safety, your idea of loyalty, your idea of who you were in that relationship. And when that breaks, it can feel like your identity cracked. Have you felt that part? That subtle question of, who am I now? Because when something we believed in collapses, we don't just lose the person. We lose the version of ourselves that existed inside that connection. And that deserves space. There is a quiet courage in saying, this hurt, not as a complaint, not as a victim, but as truth. Pain doesn't make you weak. Pretending you don't feel it does. And here's something that may feel uncomfortable to consider. Sometimes betrayal hurts more because it touches something older. Maybe you learned early in life that love was unstable. Maybe you had to work for attention. Maybe emotional safety was inconsistent. When betrayal happens, it doesn't just hurt in the present. It echoes. Your nervous system says, this feels familiar. And that doesn't mean you're broken. It means your body remembers. Cortisol rises. Your chest tightens. Your sleep changes. Your appetite shifts. You may think you're overreacting, but your system is responding to threat. So instead of asking, why am I still so affected? Try asking, what part of me feels unsafe right now? Is it the part that trusted? The part that hoped? The part that believed? Naming that part begins to bring it back into your care. Because healing isn't about eliminating pain. It's about holding it without letting it define you. You are not foolish for trusting. You are not weak for loving. You are not naive for believing someone meant what they said. The capacity to love deeply is not a flaw. It's a strength. It just needs to summon around it. And in the next part, we're going to talk about something that feels very tempting after betrayal. Building walls. Why it feels powerful. Why it feels safe. And why it quietly costs more than we realize. Take a slow breath. Let your shoulders drop. You're not here to erase your softness. You're here to protect it wisely. After betrayal, there's a moment where something inside you shifts. You may not announce it. You may not even say it out loud, but internally a decision forms. Never again. And it feels strong. It feels decisive. It feels like power returning. You tell yourself you're wiser now, more cautious, more selective, and some of that is true. But here's the quiet danger. Sometimes what we call strength is actually fear reorganized. There's a difference between boundaries and walls. Walls say, no one gets in. Boundaries say, access is earned. Walls are rigid. Boundaries are intentional. Walls are built from fear. Boundaries are built from self-respect. And after betrayal, it's very easy to confuse the two. Have you noticed that? Maybe you respond slower now. Maybe you share less. Maybe you keep conversations surface level. Maybe you tell yourself you don't need anyone. And for a while, that can feel safe. Because when you don't attach deeply, you can't be shattered deeply. But safety at the cost of connection isn't healing. It's survival. Your nervous system, especially after betrayal, wants certainty. It wants to avoid repeating the experience. The limbic system flags closeness as potential threat. Your body braces before your mind even catches up. That's not weakness. That's protection. But protection without discernment becomes isolation. So let me ask you something gently. Have you become more guarded or more clear? Because clarity feels calm. Guardedness feels tense. Clarity says, I know what I need. Guardedness says, I won't let anyone close enough to hurt me. And here's something important to understand. Boundaries are not about controlling other people. They're about honoring your nervous system. They sound like, I'm not ready to rebuild trust yet. I need consistency before I feel safe again. I won't ignore behavior that makes me uncomfortable. I'm allowed to take this slowly. Notice the difference. There's no attack in those statements. No coldness. No punishment. Just clarity. And clarity is calm. But if you grew up believing love meant sacrifice, or that keeping the peace was your responsibility, or that strong women endure quietly, setting boundaries may feel unnatural. It may even trigger guilt. Have you ever set a boundary and immediately felt like you were being too much? Too dramatic? Too demanding? Too sensitive? That reaction doesn't mean your boundary is wrong. It means your nervous system is adjusting to a new pattern. And that adjustment takes repetition. This is where neuroplasticity becomes practical. Every time you honor a boundary, even a small one, you strengthen a neural pathway that says, my needs matter. My safety matters. My peace matters. And over time, that pathway becomes easier to access. But here's the part people struggle with. Some relationships don't survive your healing. And that can feel like a second loss. Because when you stop over-explaining, when you stop tolerating inconsistency, when you stop shrinking, some people pull away, not because you're wrong, but because the dynamic changed. So let me ask you something directly. Are you afraid that becoming clear will make you alone? That if you stop overgiving, people will disappear? Sometimes betrayal reveals something we didn't want to see. The relationship only worked when you were overextending. Healing means no longer abandoning yourself to keep someone else comfortable. And that's not cold. That's self-trust. Now, there's something deeper happening underneath boundaries. Because even if you set them perfectly, even if you communicate clearly, there may still be grief. Grief for what you hoped the relationship could be. Grief for the version of the future you imagined. Grief for who you were before your trust fractured. And that's where we're going next. Because boundaries protect your heart, but grief heals it. Take a breath. Let your body soften for a moment. You don't have to become hard to become strong. You just have to become honest. There's a kind of grief no one prepares you for. The grief of betrayal. Because when someone dies, the world understands mourning. There are rituals. There's language for it. There is space. But when trust dies, when loyalty collapses, when the future you imagine dissolves, people often say, just move on. And that can make you feel like your pain is excessive. But betrayal is not just about what someone did. It's about what ended. The version of them you believed in. The version of the relationship you trusted. The version of yourself that felt safe. Something died. And grief is the body's response to loss. Not weakness. Not regression. Not failure. Loss. Have you allowed yourself to admit that something ended? Or have you been trying to skip straight to strength? Because here's the quiet truth. If you don't grieve what was lost, you carry it forward. Unprocessed grief doesn't disappear. It turns into cynicism. It turns into detachment. It turns into I don't care anymore. But usually you do care. That's why it hurts. Grief after betrayal is complicated because it often includes mixed emotions. Sadness, anger, relief, embarrassment, longing, resentment. You may miss someone who hurt you, and that can make you question yourself. But missing them doesn't mean you want the betrayal back. It means your nervous system is grieving attachment. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, doesn't shut off just because someone disappointed you. Attachment doesn't dissolve overnight. Your body needs time to recalibrate, and during that recalibration, waves come. Some days you feel steady. Some days it hits unexpectedly. A memory, a place, a song, a thought at night when everything is quiet. And you may ask yourself, why am I still feeling this? Because grief isn't linear. It's rhythmic. It moves through the body in waves, not in straight lines. When we try to outrun it, by staying busy, by distracting ourselves, by jumping into something new too quickly, the nervous system doesn't get the chance to complete the emotional cycle. Cortisol can stay elevated. Sleep can feel shallow. You may feel slightly on edge without knowing why. But when you allow yourself to feel grief in tolerable doses, not overwhelming yourself, but also not suppressing it, your system slowly learns. This is painful and I can survive it. That's emotional resilience. Not pretending you're unaffected, but sitting with the discomfort long enough that it moves. Let me ask you something gently. Have you been judging your grief? Have you told yourself, it wasn't that serious? Or, other people have it worse? Or, I should be stronger by now? Minimizing your pain doesn't make you stronger. It disconnects you from yourself. Grief is not a sign that you're stuck. It's a sign that you loved, that you trusted, that you invested, and that is not something to be ashamed of. But here's something important. Grieving does not mean staying in the story forever. You can feel the loss without letting it define your future. You can honor what mattered without carrying it into every new connection. And this brings us to the final, most important shift. Because once you've named the pain, set boundaries, allowed grief, there's one question left. How do you open again without being reckless? How do you stay soft without being unsafe? That's what we're stepping into next. Take a slow breath. You're not trying to erase what happened. You're learning how to live fully after it. This is the part most people never fully reach. They name the pain. They set boundaries. They allow themselves to grieve. And then they stop there. They survive, but they don't fully return to life. Because the final step feels like the most dangerous one of all. Opening again. Not recklessly. Not blindly. But intentionally. Here's the quiet truth. Healing is not proven by how well you protect yourself. It's proven by how safely you can remain open. After betrayal, your nervous system forms a powerful association. Closeness equals risk. Trust equals danger. Attachment equals potential loss. That association lives in the limbic system, not in logic. So no amount of positive thinking alone can undo it. It has to be retrained through experience. And that retraining begins with one shift. You don't rebuild trust in other people first. You rebuild trust in yourself. Let me ask you something gently. Do you trust yourself to notice red flags sooner? Do you trust yourself to speak up when something feels off? Do you trust yourself to walk away if patterns repeat? Because when you trust yourself to respond, you don't have to live in constant defense. You don't need hypervigilance. You don't need emotional armor. You need awareness. And awareness is calm. Staying open doesn't mean giving someone full access immediately. It means allowing small steps, small disclosures, small observations, small tests of consistency. It means watching behavior over time instead of being swept away by intensity. Intensity feels intoxicating. Consistency feels steady. Dopamine responds to novelty and excitement. But emotional safety is built through predictability. Ask yourself softly, am I mistaking intensity for security? Because intensity can make you feel chosen. Consistency makes you feel safe. And safety is what your nervous system truly needs. Now here's another subtle shift. After betrayal, some women build an identity around independence. I don't need anyone. I'm better alone. I'm stronger by myself. And independence can be powerful. But emotional isolation is not strength. Your nervous system heals in safe connection. Through co-regulation. Through calm presence. Through relationships that are steady, not dramatic. You don't need perfect people. You need consistent ones. And here's the most empowering truth in this entire process. You cannot control whether someone ever betrays you again, but you can control whether you abandon yourself when something feels wrong. That is the difference. Betrayal stops defining you when you stop outsourcing your safety. When you know, I can survive discomfort. I can leave if I need to. I can choose differently. That self-trust changes everything. It softens your vigilance. It lowers cortisol reactivity. It allows your prefrontal cortex, your calm, discerning mind, to stay engaged even when emotion rises. And slowly, something beautiful happens. You don't become naive. You don't become guarded. You become discerning. And discernment is peaceful. Let me ask you something quietly. What would your life feel like if you could love deeply again, without feeling fragile? If you could trust, without feeling exposed? If you could open, without losing yourself? That's not fantasy. That's emotional maturity. And if conversations like this support you, if you want a space where emotional strength and softness coexist, subscribe. This channel is here for women who want depth, clarity, and self-trust without hardening their hearts. Betrayal may have changed you, but it doesn't get to shrink you. It can refine you. It can strengthen your boundaries. It can deepen your intuition. But it does not get to harden your heart. Your softness was never the problem. Lack of boundaries was. And now you have wisdom. That's power. If you want to go even deeper into your emotional development, I created a practical guide to emotional self-mastery to support you. It was designed to help you regulate your emotions and build inner stability step by step at your own pace. You'll find the guide in the first pinned comment below. Take one slow breath. Feel your body. Notice that you're still here, still capable of feeling, still capable of loving, still capable of choosing differently. Betrayal changed you. Yes, but it does not get the final word. You do. And your next chapter doesn't have to be smaller. It can be wiser. It can be softer. And it can be safe. Thank you for being here.